Welcome into Fantasy Filmball. My name is Dyl, and as you've seen by the title of today's video, I saw Complete Unknown and I found this movie to be an absolute smash hit. I saw this captivating 2.5-hour jam session and it had me rocking all throughout last week, and now I'm thrilled to finally share my thoughts on this movie now that the embargo has been lifted, so let's dive right in. Let's set the scene, New York, early 1960s. Against the backdrop of a vibrant music scene and tumultuous cultural upheaval, an enigmatic 19-year-old from Minnesota arrived in the West Village with a guitar and his revolutionary talent, destined to change the course of American music. As he forms his most intimate relationships during his rise to fame, he grows restless with the folk movement and refuses to be defined, as he makes a controversial choice that culturally reverberates worldwide. Timothée Chalamet stars and sings as Bob Dylan in James Mangold's A Complete Unknown, the electric true story behind the rise of one of the most iconic singer-songwriters in history. And under the masterful direction of James Mangold, I found A Complete Unknown to just capture this raw, electrifying energy of live musical performances. The film, at least to me, is a sensory overload of music from start to finish, with nearly every scene featuring some sort of song or instrument being performed. And honestly, there's so much talk about musicals this year. Complete Unknown is kind of a musical in its own right, because this constant musical presence immerses the audience in Bob Dylan's world, offering a vivid look at the evolution of his artistry during the formative years of his career in the 1960s. It's a film that doesn't just tell a story about music, but it breathes it into every frame. And I found that Mangold's approach is particularly remarkable in how he structures the performances. In the early scenes, his direction focuses more on wide shots and long extended takes, which allows the camera to linger around on the performers, letting us really see their talent from top to bottom. We watch as Timothée Chalamet, who expertly plays Bob Dylan inside this film, and the rest of the ensemble cast sing, play instruments, and pour their souls into these live renditions of so many classic and iconic pieces of music. And then as we get into the second half of the film, we really see Mangold's direction take a switch as he kind of shifts the dynamics and the way that he goes about capturing these musical sequences. Instead of staying out wide, he zooms in and gets closer to the intimacy of each performance, pulling us deeper into the world of 1960s folk music. And this shift in perspective, I think, creates a sense of just being present during these iconic performances rather than just observing them from afar. Now, we cannot talk about A Complete Unknown without talking about Timothée Chalamet, who I think gives a career-defining performance as Bob Dylan. After showcasing his vocal abilities last year in Wonka, Chalamet, I think, takes it up to another level here, because not only does he sing inside A Complete Unknown, he is playing multiple instruments. These include a guitar, a harmonica, a piano, sometimes all at once. And then he does this iconic vocal impression of Bob Dylan's signature voice and his style, and I think his portrayal is just an extraordinary mix of mimicry and artistry. Chalamet nails the distinctive qualities that define Dylan's voice and persona and songwriting, but he also brings his own unique flair to the role, making the character feel very alive and multifaceted. And I find that Chalamet's performance inside this film constantly demands your attention because he commands every scene with a presence that's just impossible to ignore. In addition to Timothée Chalamet's just phenomenal performance as Bob Dylan, the rest of the supporting cast and ensemble inside of A Complete Unknown shine just as bright. Though the focus more remains on Dylan's journey, I find that Edward Norton, who plays a fellow musician and a mentor to Bob Dylan, brings this gravitas and emotional depth to his role. And then I also find that Monica Barbaro, who is sort of a love interest but also plays the iconic Joan Baez inside of this film, provides a perfect foil to Chalamet's performance, bringing complexity and emotional depth to her character. And while these characters may not be central to the overall narrative, because this movie is very focused on, as you can tell from the title, being focused on the enigma that is Bob Dylan, but I find that both Norton and Barbaro have standout moments on screen that leave a very lasting impact long after the credits roll. Overall, I found that this entire ensemble cast works together to elevate this film, with each actor adding texture and depth to the larger narrative about who Bob Dylan was, what his rise to fame looked like, and the cultural just landscape of the 1960s and the power of music to challenge societal norms. And then you have so many actors inside this ensemble playing iconic musicians from the time. You just find yourself mesmerized by the ensemble here, really placing you into the 1960s, and you just feel like you're watching archival footage of all of these musicians jamming out together. And speaking of jamming out, I think that is one of the best aspects of A Complete Unknown is just the sound design and the cinematic immersion. Because to me, that's what truly sets apart A Complete Unknown from all these other biopics that are out there. Because the film doesn't just showcase concert sequences, but immerses us into the everyday sounds of Bob Dylan's world, his conversations in the bustling streets of New York City, and the quiet moments of reflection between performances. And I find that the sound design inside of A Complete Unknown isn't just a backdrop, but it's a part of the essential storytelling of the film. I think the best example of this is the opening scene of the movie. It puts us right there with Bob Dylan as he first arrives to the vibrant streets of 1960s New York City, and it perfectly captured the pulse of the city at the time. You feel like you're walking down the streets with Dylan and his guitar, with the hustle and bustle of the city mixing seamlessly with the music. This sense of immersion is sustained, I think, throughout the rest of the film, which allows you to feel like you're not merely watching the story unfold, but you're experiencing alongside of these musicians, and you feel present in like the first row seat of all these live concert performances. And to conclude the review portion of this video, I ultimately found A Complete Unknown to very much succeed in everything that makes a great musical biopic. It doesn't just chart the rise of an icon, it makes you want to dive deeper into that icon's plethora of music inside their catalog. You want to find out more about the man and the era that defined a generation. I find this film to be a celebration of both Bob Dylan's artistry, but it also leaves you with a profound appreciation for his work and the cultural revolution that he helped inspire, and it makes you want to go learn more about it. This is a film that doesn't merely tell a story, it feels like an experience. Whether if you're a longtime Bob Dylan fan or just someone discovering his music for the first time, I found that A Complete Unknown will captivate you from start to finish. I found it to be a masterpiece of sound work, filled with great performances, and it has a unique eye for cinematic storytelling. Personally, I'm giving A Complete Unknown a pretty solid to a pretty strong 8 out of 10, and I would urge people who are, interested in watching this film to check it out in Dolby if possible, if not just a theater that has very immersive sound design, because the sound inside this film I think works in tandem with Timmy's take on Dylan and it deserves the best possible experience. But we are an Oscars channel at the end of the day, so now let's flip things over to the awards discussion. Come on guys, we have to have a discussion, because why have y'all all been so low on A Complete Unknown throughout the whole season? Ever since Searchlight announced that this was coming in 2024 on Christmas, it seemed like a shoo-in for me. It seemed like Searchlight's main priority. Timmy had an avenue for Best Actor, and there's so many technical nominations that could come along with this movie even before watching it. And it just seems like the film the Academy eats up year after year. And it's just weird for me to see fellow pundits or people out there in the awards space just deny this film at every turn, because it had so much going for it, and there was really no red flags about this movie whatsoever. So obviously you can see from my review above, I really like this movie, so I think it is in for Best Picture. I think it would be a very worthy nomination. But taking my personal bias aside, as I said, this is Searchlight's top dog. They're giving it the Christmas release. It's screening for critics over a month before release. The embargo is about 3 weeks before it hits theaters. They have a lot of confidence in this movie, and I think it's very deserved, because it has an opportunity to win an above-the-line Oscar for Timothée Chalamet as his take as Bob Dylan in the Best Lead Actor category. And I know Adrien Brody in The Brutalist is tough competition, but Timmy has the opportunity to do something pretty special with his role inside A Complete Unknown. 1, he'd become the youngest actor ever to win the Lead Actor prize, and 2, he would take that mantle away from his top competition this year of Adrien Brody inside The Brutalist. I can go on and on about how great I think Timothée Chalamet is inside this movie, but I want you to go watch it yourself, because it's not just him singing. He has this emotional complexity to his character, and you're fascinated by, as I said before, the enigma that is Bob Dylan. You never know his next move, and to steal the title of this film, he is in A Complete Unknown, and Chalamet sells that so well. And I feel like some other above-the-line prospects could be in both supporting categories. Edward Norton, he's hot off that Golden Globe nomination from yesterday, and I think he will continue to show up throughout the rest of award season. See him at CCA, see him at SAG, potentially see him at BAFTA. He could hit all 4 major precursors. On the flip side, supporting actress, this one's a little bit more interesting to me. I currently don't have this getting the nomination, but I found that Monica Barbero, who plays Joan Baez inside this, deserves to be in the awards conversation. And it was so weird to me when NBR gave the shout out to Elle Fanning, which, I mean, she's not bad inside this movie, but if you're gonna go for a supporting actress, Barbaro seems the one that's much more likely, so I'll be interested to see. They both missed the Globe, will either show up at CCA, I doubt they'll show up at SAG or BAFTA, but regional critics, if they weigh in, if they have a preference over the other, or if it will just be Edward Norton in the supporting categories. And one thing about A Complete Unknown is I think even if you don't love the film, you're gonna come out thinking that Timmy is amazing inside this role, but you're also gonna see that this film is a true showcase for the sound. And I would say even if A Complete Unknown somehow misses the Best Picture conversation, this sound nomination, it's an absolute lock. In addition to some other nominations I can see getting out there, I can totally see editing, I can totally see cinematography, and I can totally see hairstyling and makeup. I mean, they have a nose on Timothée Chalamet, they puff out his cheeks, and every actor inside this film has little small stuff to make them look and resemble those iconic musicians just a little bit more. And I feel like that's something the branch always looks to go out for, transformations of actors on screen, and then the editing, it's music, there's so many concert sequences, it's something I could see paired with that sound nomination very easily. And then cinematography, look at the trailer, it's a beautiful film. I talked about Mangold's direction, his eye for how to shoot these musical sequences. If people are major fans of this film, that's a nomination I can see adding to its overall tally. So at the end of the day, the Oscar prospects for me, what I currently have for A Complete Unknown, would be Best Picture, Timothée Chalamet, Edward Norton, Best Editing, Cinematography, Sound, and Makeup. I have it getting 7 nominations. On its absolute best day, maybe can add an 8th. On its worst day, I think its floor is at 3, at 4. Those being Picture, Chalamet, Sound, and Makeup and Hairstyling. But overall, that's going to wrap up our review on A Complete Unknown. The embargo lifts today, so if you haven't had a chance to see the movie, I really hope that you enjoy it. If you do see it out in the future, consider joining our Discord down below. Let us know your thoughts. We talk awards each and every day there. And then if you're new to the channel or you're a returning viewer and you haven't subscribed yet, consider dropping us a subscription. It helps us continue to grow, continue to bring you this coverage of awards season and film reviews. And we have a lot of stuff coming out this week. It is the thick of awards season. We just had Globes reactions yesterday. This video is coming out today, and we're having a Filmball waiver video come out tomorrow. So until next time, my name's Dyl. This has been Fantasy Filmball. Peace.